So you didn't get cancelled then, did you?
I didn't get cancelled. You're right. You're right. I don't think enough people watched the last podcast.
Also we just cut out the things.
Oh, you edited it. All right, maybe I didn't watch it.
Maybe I should create like just a selection of things that Jamie said in the last podcast that would have been problematic. I feel like that would make a good compilation.
Just like blackmail me. Like, it's fine.
And have you got a beer today?
I don't have any beer. I got my water. It was kindly provided by the podcast people. It's not advertising.
Non-branding.
Non-branding. Sorry, turn it around. Yeah, sorry, but yeah.
And you guys have got your, what's this new edition?
Remarkables. It's electronic paper. Or as someone described it to me the other day, an empty Kindle. It's basically what it is. And that was a really good explanation. Yeah. So yeah, that's. But it's really good. You can sorry, I shouldn't sell it, but yeah,
that's all right.
I'm more of a pen and paper sort of person.
The reason why Jamie got one is because I really wanted one, and Jamie was like, "If you're getting one, I want one."
That's pretty much what happened. There's no bulk buy discount or something, but yeah.
No, that was the reason why.
So yeah, we're all the gear. That's
high tech now, guys.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I'm surprised you use it, I have to admit.
Yeah,
the Luddite I want to use an abacus.
I would love that, but no, it's good because you write my notes, and rather than having to scan it, which I find scanners difficult, and I can just plug it in and move it from that file to that file, and it kind of works quite well.
Can I ask, how well does it pick up your handwriting?
Oh, really good.
Really well.
It's like
really
instant.
well. But my handwriting is impeccable.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That's exactly why I asked you.
It's okay. It's okay.
I quite like it because I get to use a fountain pen without having to worry about the ink.
Oh yeah, yours is fancy. Yeah. Okay. I'm sold in this.
Whereas Jamie's just
I'm waiting for my
ball.
Can we talk about tax now?
No, we have to talk about your shirts first. I've just made an observation around how on brand you both are again today.
Yeah.
After the light blue shirts last time.
Well, people can't see, but I've got my sort of gold shorts on, so it's sort of like matches. They're not gold, they're like tan, but like they sort of match the logo, and that was intentional. That was absolutely intentional.
Very on brand.
Dean's not on brand.
No need to be. Look, I can't work out. Mine is like mine's navy or black.
Also, I was expecting Jamie to rock up in his wine shirt.
I thought about it, like the cat shirt after last time or something, but I thought no, I'll
refrained.
Yeah.
Well done.
Growth.
Because you're an employer now. That will be the phrase of the day, because I'm an employer now.
I'm an employer now, so I'm being a bit more like sensible. Like that's.
Okay, well, assuming people haven't seen the first one, even though it's got like 1 million odd views. Come on, guys.
How many views does it have?
I'll check that figure afterwards.
I know at least like 12 of them are from us, because we did watch it.
Because you had to rewatch it.
We watched it 3 times.
Also, we had like many edits, so I feel like, we'd have to count them all across.
Oh yeah, that'd be a lot. Yeah. That'd be a lot.
The one about you two, fighting about your titles is probably one of the more
ones. Yeah, that's still a big deal. That's still a big deal.
Well, on that note then, why don't you reintroduce yourself to the people that haven't seen yourself before on the podcast?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Age before beauty. That's that situation. So I'm James Edwards. I am a chartered tax advisor, and I am 50% owner of Anderson Edwards. The original and the OG.
The OG?
Yeah, I do private client personal tax, so trusts and inheritance tax and income tax, capital gains, thrilling stuff. Individuals, not businesses. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. Yeah, there's me.
Yep, and I'm Dean Anderson, Managing Director of Anderson Edwards. I own the other 50%. That makes the 100. I deal with businesses, so companies mainly. With us tend to focus on sort of improving clients, sort of operationals, and getting them to the next level.
Amazing. We've got the full 100% Anderson and Edwards. And quick intro from me, I am Letitia Lamb, and I am marketer for Anderson and Edwards. I think we're doing well so far, because at one point you had to consider not doing any marketing, let's just say. So I'm just very grateful to be here, honestly. I am just very grateful. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, no worries. No worries at all.
Regardless of the fact you organised it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Got us here.
Heard the sheep around the room. Awesome. Well, let's just start about start talking about what's topical right now then in your world of tax and accountancy. Tell me what's going on.
Interest rates.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, it's all bad news. I think everyone's starting to feel it now. Tax increases. That was sort of been announced a while ago, but they're sort of happening now. Corporate tax went up. Income tax went up in Scotland. Not so much in England, although slightly different. And allowances have either gone down or they've stayed the same on the whole. First bit of technical jargon, fiscal drag. So basically, it's when allowances stay the same, but it doesn't keep up with inflation or wage increases. So basically, everything stays, everything goes up. It means greater proportion of your stuff is taxed. So that's basically, it's just all bad. Like, it's probably the best way to describe things. So that's really topical.
Unless you're a saver.
Yeah, well, even then, even if you're a saver, then I mean, saving interest is not exactly kept in line with inflation. In fact, I think the bank's gotten a little bit of bother recently for not increasing savings rates while still increasing mortgage interest rates. But yeah, that's probably for the macroeconomists to argue about. And the other thing in tax really that's hopefully we're sort of protecting clients from this a little bit in the industry, but HMRC is really struggling. I mean, I've been saying this since like before COVID, but it's really getting quite bad. Like a real line in the sand was that they closed the self-assessment line for individuals for 3 months. They're basically testing this sort of seasonal approach because they tend to get fewer calls between now and sort of September. So they've just gone, let's take people away from that and close that service. So if you want to get in contact with HMRC about self-assessment at the moment, you're not in for a good time. So yeah, that's something that's it's really, it's basically waving a flag like we're in trouble, guys. And we've been saying up for a long time in the industry, and we've been picking up the pieces in accountancy and tax and but yeah, it's getting harder and harder. Yeah, I wish I had some good news. Like, I really don't.
It's a bit grim in here today.
There are one or two people who have won out in some of the tax changes, like on pensions and stuff. But it's so small in comparison to the general sort of feel. So that's what everyone's talking about at the moment in the tax side. But on the accountancy side, the more business owner side, there's probably bigger issues to worry about. So yeah, Dean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the corporation tax, as you mentioned, it's just you're just going to be paying more tax. I think that's the bottom line. Much as everyone else, it's more about controlling it, making sure you're a bit more aware of what your position, your profit is going to be, your taxable profit at the end of the year. It's sort of working out how much you've got in the two main targets are £50,000 profit and £250,000 profits. Then group structures vary that. So it's sort of just managing how you're spending, when you're spending your money, timing, pensions, all those sort of things. So it's clients having to be a bit more on the ball. There's not too much of an issue right now because we're currently in July, but come sort of tail end of the year might be a bit more, just because more and more businesses might be in that marginal corporation tax rate, which is a big jumping up from 19% to effective 26.5%, which I got wrong last podcast.
Oh,
I said 26.3, 26.5. And the marginal
okay, you
rate.
corrected it now.
I corrected it now.
You're good.
And the other thing is, I slightly touched on, was the interest rates going up. It's the cost of getting finance now. It's a lot more expensive. So people might need to look at sort of different forms of raising capital, which is very much out with our sort of working stuff. But it's more the sort of approach of, I'll just get on finance and it'll be okay. Is probably a bit more redundant now, especially when you're sort of paying north of at least 6% now on certain asset classes. It's not ideal for clients.
Mm-hmm. And are you seeing, you mentioned like pensions, for example, as employers kind of consider that within their own structures of company and financing, like that obviously has an impact on employees as well down the line?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that quite a lot. There's a lot of remuneration is like a really big topic at the moment, and it's not as simple as I want a bigger salary. I mean, that'd be great. Yeah, speak to you, Dean, but but no, it's like how your overall remuneration package looks.
Right.
the more that of your personal expenditure that you can make in a more tax efficient manner. Like obviously you can't have your employer paying your rent and things like that without there being tax implications, but there are things you can do, like cycle to work schemes, these sorts of things. Like there's tiny little reliefs like flying all over the place, and if you can make use of all of them, actually, you know what, you can save yourself a fair whack. And will people do that? Because a lot of it's a faff. There's a lot of reporting. But yeah, the way your pension's paid and things like that, these things can actually add up pretty quickly. And I think if you're really trying to drill down and basically make yourself a bit more tax efficient, get more money in your pocket, or grow your wealth without being penalized, then you really need to be looking at this. It's not easy to do anymore. It used to be you could accidentally do quite well, and it's not really like that anymore. It's like if you get paid an extra £100, you're going to pay more than half of that in tax and national insurance. It's that sort of level now, and it's difficult. It's difficult, but
yeah, the thing I want to touch on there, where you're sort of talking about all the schemes and stuff like that, it's something that I've noticed a bit as well. It's the cost versus the ease of doing things. So for clients I work with, invoice financing is a really good tool to free up some working capital. So by working capital means you've got cash available to pay your staff or your subcontractors or sort of those sort of things on time. And historically it looks as sort of a negative from a cost perspective. And now it is costly over the grand scheme of a year. However, the headache and the stress that could take off a business owner for paying, you have to pay additional fees to the banks or the funding requirements, but the stress of not having to worry about you've got that cash available to pay your suppliers, your staff, everything like that. So a point you made about sort of trying to make your life more efficient through tax is sort of that balance of sort of the costs versus the ease balance. Now we all work in professional services, so there's people may tend to think of us as leechers.
He doesn't speak for all of us.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's more of the we know what we know, we're all good at it, so we should take that burden off the client. And I think that's sort of the ease part of it. Yes, it does cost money, but it's the ease to then free you up to run your business, spend time with the family. I think that's the sort of the counterbalance of everything. And I think a lot of people are looking at that at the minute. I think that sort of people are feeling it, as you sort of mentioned, the sort of people have less cash now to sort of spend on the fun things.
Right.
And that's the thing. So so in the first podcast we sort of touched on getting on zero and sort of looking at that. So next steps is sort of start looking at the profit and loss once a month, once a quarter, definitely at least once a quarter, and sort of seeing how you're going, looking at your cash flow. The longer your business goes, you get to see where peaks and troughs are. For us, it's very much February, March time. Despite sort of my stuff sort of flowing throughout the whole year, we still have this sort of slump in cash flow for where all of a sudden we sort of don't run out of cash, but all of a sudden we've got a deficit, so we need to factor that in, sort of not go and spend all the January and December money straight away. It's that sort of counterbalance.
I should point out I don't stop working in February, March. I work way harder. I just don't charge anyone for all the work that I do in February, March.
Dean, can you attest to this?
Yeah, to be fair,
there you go. He wouldn't do that.
This February, March, you got
this February, March.
This singular year, after 10 years, it's the only year he's ever worked hard.
Last year was a
fair play. Yeah.
You might have just got 40%, maybe just pass mark. This year was a good.
Oh wow!
Hey, pass is a pass.
At least 80, going 80%.
Better than a fail. So there you go, Jerry. Well done.
I'm happy.
Yeah, so looking at your cash flow, sort of picking that up, working out if you've got seasonal, and also sort of recognising when you've got your big tax bills as well. Obviously, companies will have their corporation tax bill, and also factoring in as well. You need to make sure you're saving enough money personal tax, so particularly for a business sort of closed company situation, you need to make sure you've got the cash filled with cash available to pay your personal tax in January and July if applicable. So again, you might look at doing dividends at that time, and as mentioned, if we're looking to take dividends out in January, it's like, okay, yeah, but we need to factor in February, March. So it's all that sort of needs to be taken into account. That sort of comes through time as well. The sort of longer established businesses is a bit easier to predict, but also sort of working with your accountant as well, sort of that I see a lot more businesses, so it's not like, for example, for you, it's not just, oh, I don't know anything about the type of business you are, but I work with other businesses, so I could right, this, do you tend to see this? You're, oh yes, I do. It's that sort of positive. And same with, imagine with you with your marketing as well. It's like if me and Jamie are saying something, you're like, yeah, that's fine. That happened like last week, that's fine. No, I had to deal with that. As we were discussing Twitter on the way down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's sort of really sort of part one, part two, sort of the sort of steps, and then looking to sort of then create a budget as well. I think that's very good to sort of set your goals early. It allows for that long-term planning where we're sort of, as I was hitting on the sort of corporation tax rates, if we know you're going to be, say, £80,000 profit for the year, obviously, yes, it's a brilliant year, but you've got a large tax bill to HMRC, so we can look to mitigate that sooner, or are we just trying to reduce that amount, which is probably the sort of approach I think we're generally going to take with most clients is, right, let's try and reduce this as much as possible, sort of making pension contributions, buying equipment sooner if applicable. So that's sort of the overall approach. And then sort of building on that is then forecasting. Now there's sort of a trade-off with this as well as sort of when you're sort of out by yourself and you're just doing it, paying someone to do this, it's that sort of counterbalance. So it's using that time with the sort of discussion annual accounts or every quarter just to have those, oh, what about this, and sort of gleaming little bits of information as well. With what I found with a couple of clients as well is some clients have been sort of a bit hesitant, right? I don't know if I want to come and have this year-end chat. And it's sort of like, no, calm down. It's more that hour we spend chatting. It's you're not in your business. You're on your business looking at it as a whole, and it's that sort of like reflection period as well. I think that's really beneficial.
Yeah, I love the budgeting though. Like we do a budget at the start of each calendar year, and Dean, I will have to say, like I'm not often very complimentary of him, but he's pretty good at like getting the expenses like pretty much spot on. The key expense, which has been over-reported in the budget, is my client entertainment budget.
Oh my gosh, which I'm very surprised at.
Yeah, I know,
no,
right?
Aren't we all? I'm happy though.
Oh yeah, Dean's happy about it.
I've massively underspent, and I'm like, it's like the council, you know. I've got like, if I
don't know, I might just revoke that. It's now gone.
If I don't spend it, I won't get it next year. You know,
it's like that episode in The Office where he's like, imagine your mum gave you £5 for ice cream and you only used 3. Next time she's only give you 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. This is what Dean's doing to you now because you're not using it all.
I feel like a child. So
On your point about service value of a service and advice behind the service, and just I think you make a really good point, because you often get people that when you are a service-based professional, they're like, oh, I could do that. You know, I could do a tax return myself, for example. But it's, you know, essentially the stuff you made a really good point earlier, Dean, about the actual service you're paying for is often the stuff you don't see right behind the scenes.
Yeah, when you're saying particularly when you do a tax return, it might takes 10 hours to do each one. That's how tax return.
If he's not procrastinating.
10 seconds.
But it gets summarised into 11-page document.
Yeah,
it's hard for clients to see that value, and I think that's a problem with a lot of businesses.
Well, I'll tell you, like,
an issue.
How I sort of sell the service when I get phone calls, and bear in mind, like, my sort of bread and butter client would be a high earning employee. Now, the vast majority of their stuff is just a P60. You know, like, that's 2 numbers that goes in the tax return. In fact, if you go on HMRC and did your own tax return, a lot of this stuff would be pre-populated. Like, I'm not here to tell you that doing a tax return is a particularly difficult or a particularly just an onerous task, actually. It's just, when I take someone on, I'm not taking them on to fill out a form. Like, that's the end. That's basically the crossing the T's and the dotting the I's. It's the conversation. It's all the little things throughout the year that you're going to contact me, and I know who you are. I know what's going on, and you're going to ask me to do little things like send forms for mortgage renegotiations, or sign something off so that you can be a guarantor on a child, or something like that. And like, I personally wouldn't charge you for that sort of thing. but I'll charge you for an overall annual service. Now, this was all taught to me about 10 years ago by an accountancy partner who I have on LinkedIn, so she might see this. But I thought she was an idiot when she first announced this. I was like, don't be ridiculous. People are paying me to fill out a form. That's literally what it says in the fee. Don't be, it's namby-pamby. And it was like, no, she was so right. Like, it was exactly what it is. It's like, it's the you're getting a service overall, and it's not data entry. Like, there is a fair amount involved, and hopefully technology will take a lot of that away, but the actual value comes from knowing who someone is, caring, like, and telling them what to do when there's a choice. And there's so many choices in tax, like, that's the key point. But it's trying to bang that drum. And when I go on my passionate rants, this is how I sound on the phone, by the way. And people are like, oh my God.
You're just not pacing around the room.
Yeah, pacing around the room.
You're wearing out the middle of the office.
And I'm like, oh my God, tax is so interesting. And then the person's like, shut up, I just want you to do my tax return. It's like, yeah, fine, that's fine. But like, you're going to get this thing. And that's why I think a lot of people want to come on board, because I'm explaining it like that. And hopefully I'm providing that service. I need to chill on the growth a little bit in order to make sure I still can. But it's what I think the industry is going to move into. And if you are really, really straightforward and there's nothing complicated, I wouldn't suggest using someone like me. Like, it's not necessary. But you don't stay simple for long, and people have more complicated years, and that's actually when the value comes in. And if you only use someone like me when in the complicated years, you sort of lose the value. It's too late. Like, I need to know 5-10 years in advance when you're going to get complicated, because if you get complicated, I can't do anything about it before that. So yeah, that's my sales pitch. That's it. But I'm not looking for more clients, but like it's a sales pitch anyway.
I was going to say, the other thing I think as well is accountability for clients. More that, I now, particularly this year, we've sort of, with the tax returns operations manager, Jane has very much been chasing people as we wanted to.
Jane's been amazing.
And and it's that sort of, I need to get the information in. I think we've seen, what was the numbers that?
I don't even know. Well, she gave a number. I don't think the number is accurate, but that's because my record keeping is not amazing. But no, it's more than last year. It's considerably more than last year.
Is this numbers for
like basically getting the tax returns in and the information in, and me getting them out the door in time and stuff, rather than just putting everything into January, which is what typically happens. But no, it's been much more spread out this year, and yeah, much more efficient. It needed to be. There's more people, so
good. I'm glad to hear it.
Thanks.
Right, so let's move on to FAQs whilst we're here. Now, what are the most currently frequently asked questions that you get from clients or people that phone you up? Because I know loads of people phone you up all the
time. There's a lot of people thinking about leaving the country.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's like tax residency and stuff.
Okay.
So like maybe remote work and stuff. That's something that goes on. That is, I mean, this has been around for a long time. I would say in general towards this, the tax is probably less complicated than social security, like particularly since the UK left the EU and stuff. Social security and how long you're going to leave for, what country you're going to, is there a reciprocal agreement? That's pretty massive at the moment. I don't want lots of those questions, they're very difficult, but yeah, I'm fairly good at residency in general, double taxation agreements and things like that. The key thing is to know when you need to go to a big firm. Like that's a really big thing. I've got lots of sort of contacts at big firms who are very good at this sort of stuff, and I'll take the calls. I'll realize how complicated it is. If it's something I can handle, then I'll take it on for a reasonable price. But if I just say, actually, you know what, you need to go big stuff here, there's huge impacts for you, you've got various complications going on, and you need a team behind you to do this. You can't have just me, and there's a lot of responsibility on like smaller firms to do that. and I wish more of us did it, to be honest. But yeah, that's the thing. So that's massive. At the moment, I would say mortgage applications. That's huge. So like obviously, I do a lot of tax returns and things. So the lenders are asking for what we call SA 302s, which is basically just a tax calculation. And then there's a corresponding page at HMRC, and they want those for a few years. So that's something obviously I can provide, and that's totally fine. What I would say about that though is when you're having it's not just about here's a form, send it off. It's actually, you know what, this is actually important for how quickly you should be getting your tax return done. Like if you know this is coming in, you probably want your latest year done. Like don't wait till January. If you've got a conversation happening in the summer, then actually it should already be in so that you can get this out. And also, tax isn't always about how much you've got to pay, or reducing an amount or increasing the amount you've got to pay. A lot of tax is about timing. A really good example of that is something called capital allowances. So you can choose how much of a new laptop you want to claim in a year. It's very different from depreciation. It's a sort of a tax-only adjustment. And like obviously people in tax understand this, accountants understand this, but your mortgage lenders don't. So if you've got a profit of 60,000, 60,000, 60,000 every year, then all of a sudden you buy a van or whatever, and it's like, okay, it's now 20,000. Well, actually for your mortgage guys, they're gonna lose their mind.
What van are you buying?
Do you know how expensive vans are? Or is that a what is a van question? Right?
No, actually,
that's a hot topic in tax.
Yeah.
They
live in a country that's probably a camper van.
Yeah. Well, that's got its own rules, but no, like it's not primarily for the transportation of goods. But no, it's a whole issue. But yeah, so like actually, you know what? Maybe you should be paying more tax now just to prove that your income's higher. Now, I wish that I could have a real conversation with the lenders and explain to them it's like the profit is still X, but they had to a large piece of an expenditure which is allowable for tax, which looks like the profit's lower. I wish I could have that conversation, but unfortunately the lenders are much more robotic than that, and it's sort of tick boxy. So they wouldn't understand. It's something I get very frustrated about. Picked a fight with the lenders last year on LinkedIn, did very well. But there's obviously a lot of frustration from the clients and from accountancy firms, because we all know this. Like this, but if the document, the SA 302 says, oh, this person's got a much reduced profit in this particular year because I've made a claim to save some tax, then unfortunately they might get a mortgage rejected, and that's not something good. So there's a real conversation of what else is going on in your life. To take you back to why I think just data entry probably isn't that good, because these are the sorts of things that can make a real difference to you, and they're not even tax related. I should point out, for the capital allowances things, you get the tax relief later. If I don't claim it in this year, you can claim it over various other years. But it's this is the sort of conversations people be happening. It's not a data entry exercise. It's like, well, what should I be doing and what's best for you? So that's a sort of frequently asked question. It's like, hey, can you send me this form? And I'm like, well, why? Why do you want it? Is the first question. And it's like, well, actually, you should be sending me the information so we can get another one in, and it builds your case, build a stronger picture. And I think if mortgage rates are at their current level, I know that mine's running out fairly soon. That's an issue. But yes, that's what I'm seeing an awful lot of at the moment.
My side, there's not really general questions, but I can sort of tell that I sort of now been working with quite a lot of clients for over 2 years. It's that sort of mind shift change where they're going, hey, Dean, what's this? What's this? What's that? And they're looking at them, they can tell they're not just letting the zero they're not just hitting OK and zero, they're actually looking at the numbers. And a lot of them are like, oh, why is my director's loan this balance? And shouldn't it be this? And it's quite, I think this sort of point earlier of sort of clients hitting, they're looking at the picture, they're seeing their money go less far. So it's that sort of approach that it's the whole picture. And I think that comes over years of working together, rather than just, you can't just have that boom, instant chemistry. As how long did it take us to get it? Do we even have it yet?
No. Don't know. Everything's a lie.
Sorry, this is year 3 of business, right?
Yes, year 3.
Yeah, we're in year 3.
Yeah. So you're going strong. And do you ever get, Dean, on your point there, do you ever get people as they grow asking, like, one of like when they take on their first, I don't know, employee, like we'll talk about you guys later, but like, do you get a lot of people suddenly thinking, oh, maybe I need an extra pair of hands?
Yeah, it's trying to work out when that point is. We probably should have hired last year, but it's sort of that balance of, we decided not to keep on that current growth rate, and probably still ended up doing that growth rate, I have to admit. But it's that sort of switch of, right, how much is it actually going to cost? Because if, say, someone's got a salary of £40,000, for example, it costs the business a lot more. So instantly you've got employer's national insurance on top of that. You've then also got all the extra equipment as well. What I sort of say is just client just asks a question, and it's like, okay, yeah, or okay, let's have a conversation a bit more, sort of kind of thing.
See if it's feasible or not at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note then, about hiring, would you say that that's probably one of the things that companies that you're working with are struggling with, or in general?
Yeah, the two things we already touched on, the interest increases, like just the cost of stuff going up, like that's the big one. But the other one is hiring. There's no doubt about that. We've been very lucky. I say we, like this is mainly Dean's clients, to be fair. I'd maybe deal with the directors every once in a while and have a conversation with them about this, but like I'm not really looking at the numbers on this. But what I'm hearing is just how difficult it is, and them sort of making that decision of like how quickly can we make a return on hiring someone, or like will we actually end up just working harder but not really making any more profit, and then finding the right people being the hardest thing really. I think there's a bit of a hangover from COVID, I think, as well, with a skills hangover a little bit. Like a lot of people, this is obviously a really touchy subject, but the sort of like the working from home stuff has maybe changed people's skills in such a way. That's probably as diplomatic as I can make it. But there's been from what I can see, there's been a real dramatic drop off in soft skills, which is really helpful. Like soft skills are some of the most valuable things, but just everyone being online for so long is sort of, there's been a bit of a change. That being said, you can now reach more people, and you can hire from further afield, and like we've done that. And
it's sort of become the norm. Like it doesn't matter that we're in Edinburgh, we can still have clients all over the UK. I think that's beneficial. But yeah, it is
but that's a huge change. Like say your family business that's been going for generations, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, actually in order to compete pricing and stuff, you've got to go further afield, and you have to change the way you do stuff. That affects another process, it affects suppliers. It's there's just so many changes, but yeah, hiring I would still put up there with the hardest thing. I think everyone's sort of looking for the same people as well. Like I'm obviously speaking to sort of colleagues in the accountancy industry, and there's a huge backlog in terms of like hiring the same sorts of people, and yeah, they're like really difficult to find. And I think if you're treating your employees badly in the accountancy world right now, you're in for a shock. There's a lot of people who want to hire your staff, so like, hands up, so yeah, there's like a whole thing. But yeah, I mean that can only work out for the best for most people, which means like you can negotiate higher salaries, like you can have a better work-life balance, and yeah, it's a good thing. It's just
Jamie, what are the upcoming tax challenges that you in your mystic ball foresee?
I think probably the one that affects the most people would be the capital gains tax exemption reduction. Like not everyone pays capital gains tax, like don't get me wrong, but it's more the fact that it used to be £12,200 a year, which it's a considerable like amount. It's okay, that's pretty good, but it's dropping, or it has dropped to 6,000, and next year it's dropping to 3,000. Now the actual difference in the tax, because capital gains tax rates typically aren't that high, the actual difference in the amount is not huge. But the biggest problem that this is going to cause is going to push so many people into a reporting requirement. So if you can imagine that you had some shares that you will sell for, I don't know, £20,000 or something, so like something considerable, but you bought them for like, I don't know, £15,000 or something like that. Now, difference 5,000, good, I'm doing the maths, being recorded. But so that's a £5,000 gain. Now, in the current year, you'd still be okay because it's covered by that, but year after, then actually there's going to be some tax due because the exemption is only 3,000. So you can either use the HMRC Report Now software, which is completely rubbish because that's not how capital gains tax is calculated. You have to work out your income tax position first normally in order to work out whether you're a higher rate or a basic rate taxpayer for capital gains tax. So you don't know your answer by the time you're wanting to do it, or you have to do a tax return. So, I mean, if someone calls me up and says, I've got £5,000 worth of gain, it's above my £3,000 annual exemption, can you do my tax return, please? Now, I could tell you the answer to that, like what the tax would be immediately. Like, I would just know that. But I've now got to charge you to do a form, which historically you wouldn't have to do. Now, I can tell you my fee is going to be higher than the amount of tax due. Like that's ridiculous. So it's more become, it's not really a tax increase that I see as the problem. It's more of it's pushing more people into a reporting requirement or have tax due. And HMRC can't handle that. I mean, I just told you they've already closed down half the funny services. But it's, the same sort of thing's happening for the dividend allowance. So even if you're getting like a small amount of investments that are out with a good Scottish word, that one, out with an ISA, then if you had a £2,000 dividend allowance, it's now 1,000. It's going to be 500 below that, and it's like, well, all of a sudden these people are going to have to pay some tax on this, and HMRC wants you to call up and tell them. It's just not practical. The only other way to do that would be a formal tax return, and again, it's a massive cost unless you're just going to do it yourself, which is totally fine. But in my experience, most people aren't comfortable doing that. It's just, the whole thing is just really stupid. I've got no other way to say it. It's just badly thought out. I made a comment on this sort of publicly in Tax People, and I think a lot of people are in agreement. So yeah, I'm not angry about it from a tax increase point of view. It's just it's not a fun conversation for me to have if someone calls up and says, "Hey Jamie, I've got a P60, I've got a little bit of investment income, and I've also got a £7,000 gain, and I'm quoting you £500 in order to do that." It's just not fair for anyone involved. There's no value I can really add. So yeah, it's that's going to be really frustrating. I don't really know how to fix that. Hopefully it's more just an idea of like try and keep yourself within these smaller allowances if you can. But yeah, that's a bit rubbish, and I think that's going to come along fairly soon. People start feeling that a lot more within the current year and next year. So more bad news. Sorry, guys.
Yes. Wonderful. Right, to break up the bad atmosphere then, I have brought... I was going to call them Cards Against Humanity, but they're definitely not.
Shouldn't be doing that. Shouldn't be doing that.
Not you two, definitely not. So it's a box of cards called We're Not Really Strangers.
Okay.
I know you guys aren't strangers, right? But I thought it'd be fun.
Oh,
to
no.
just
I'm really nervous.
Test how not strangers you are.
Okay.
So there's three different levels. So level 1 is perception, which you're definitely past, the two of you. Level 2 is connection, which I feel like you've connected enough, the two of you also. So level 3 is reflection, which might be slightly more like, deep when the question gets asked. You might have to think about it for a while, so do think about it if you need to.
Oh, I'm really
and then
nervous.
apparently there's like wild cards that are just like in them that, prompt you to do things. I won't tell you what yet, but
we have to bear in mind
they
that
might be
I
quite
will
easy
fall
questions.
over the cables if I have to.
It's all right. It's okay. It won't be the worst thing that happens.
Okay.
Okay. Right. I'm gonna do just a quick shuffle.
Oh.
Okay.
Why
are you so nervous?
This is not planned. Like they're not tax related. I don't know how to answer
Yeah, they're
them.
personal related for the both of you. Right. I'm gonna put them in the middle of the table.
Okay.
And you can take.
You want to take one first?
Take one from the top. Yep.
I have to read off this.
Yeah, you have to read.
So are you asking me this question?
Oh, okay. Right. This is actually quite pro. If you were in a band, what would... if we were in a band, what would our name be?
Our name?
Not Anderson and Edwards. Not Anderson and Edwards, okay?
Well, this is more of a tax geeky thing, but I used to be in a band. I was a professional musician for a long time, and it's fairly common in the tax world to get to be musical. It's a really common thing. And someone said to me once that a really cool name for a band would be the CT600s. which is the name for a corporation tax return.
Oh my
But I
god.
always thought it was a really good band name.
That is the cutest band
So
name
much
ever.
confusion. When people look it up what a CT600 is, and then this band suddenly appears.
And would you be singing about CT600?
But to be fair, I do occasionally still play like open mic nights around Edinburgh and stuff, and I tend to like play songs that have got like tax and like lyrics and stuff. So like "Sunny Afternoon" by the Kinks is the first lines. The tax man's taking all my dough, like, and it's like I do stuff like that. I try not to tell anyone that like I do this
Well,
stuff.
you've told everyone
Yeah,
now.
I know, but like it's unlikely these people will see me in doing this stuff. But it's but yeah. So that's my answer. The CT600s. I think that would be quite appropriate.
Dean, would you be happy with that band name?
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Wait, what instrument would you play? Well, I mean, I know Jamie plays the guitar.
I play everything.
Oh, you play
I play
everything.
everything. Get me on the bagpipes. You know, that's the thing.
Can I be like, was it Bez and just with the tambourine just walking on the
The
stage?
tambourine's a tough instrument. I like people like underestimate.
I
it.
cannot
Like,
play any musical instruments nor keep a tune, so yeah. You keep a
A
rhythm.
triangle. You've always got a triangle, right?
Yeah. No.
lead singer.
Yeah, if I was...
You'd be a good front man.
I'd be a good frontman, but I can't do any of the frontman. The main part being the frontman is you have to be able to sing.
Oh
He
well,
doesn't
yeah.
have the soft skills to be a front man. The singing, I mean, the singing. Okay, Jamie, what's yours?
I've got
Have you got?
a wild card.
You got a wild card. What's the wild card?
Oh no! Give your partner, and I'm assuming it's you. Like that's another thing. Anyway, give your partner a compliment you don't think they hear enough. Oh god!
Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good.
This is planned.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. But this will be good. Dean doesn't get compliments.
I
enough, I'm
don't
sure.
know. I gotta be like, oh god. I'm actually quite complimentary when Dean's not around.
Yeah,
About
to be
it.
fair, yeah, actually.
How do you know?
You just gave me a compliment earlier. And,
I did actually. I did. I think. Oh god, can you come back to me? No, I'm
He
just
needs to
kidding.
think about it, Dean.
No,
We need to circle back.
I think that you are a lot more. No, this is really difficult. This is really
Get
difficult.
some, like,
Basically,
romantic
it-
music.
Oh, no,
over this,
yeah,
but-
no,
what Jamie's trying not to do here is boost my ego too much as well.
no,
It's like
that's
a
basically-
fine
that's
balance of line
basically
you're
it.
trying to do here.
This is horrible. Like, no, I think that Dean doesn't hear enough how professional he can be. I think like because basically I think he gets tarred with my brush an awful lot, but which is not particularly professional. But I think that maybe just by comparison, but I think you are particularly professional when you want to be, and like even to a point of like I feel like a child a lot of the time. It's like don't do that. Like, and I think it's really I personally find it very beneficial that there's someone to rein me in a little bit.
To be honest, I did that on Saturday because I've been getting those scam emails. So it's like, yep, make sure you don't click on these, Jamie especially.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll give you
Yeah.
that. I think
Yeah.
I feel really awkward now.
Yeah, you're just like, what do I do with myself?
I can't make a joke out of this. It was implied that I had to be quite genuine. So, yeah. But no, yeah. That's
Did you
something.
expect that compliment, Dean?
No, I didn't actually. That's
No,
very
really?
nice. Thank
Okay.
you.
No,
As in,
no
there
worries.
there could have been more that you could have given him.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
like, numerous things I could have said. But it's funny you said partner. This is like one of the things that happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
I went on Friday night. I was like talking about like my business partner is coming along because it's you got to be quite concise because I think my fiance would be quite annoyed if like I started referring to Dean as my partner. So it's like a whole thing. So yeah, partner's a very difficult word. It's particularly annoying in tax because you've got things like partnerships where people refer to things like companies and they refer to their business partners like, well, you're not partners, you're actually co-directors. just to be pedantic, but yeah, it's
We
like
share an employer.
yeah, we share an employer. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, so
We share an employer that we have the same ownership in.
yeah, that's fine.
But I think that's cool. I mean, you clearly compliment each other.
I feel really dirty.
Why do you keep giving me lines that I can just take out of context completely?
Edit it out. But yeah.
Actually, on that point, because I think that, not to blow Dean's head up even more.
I wonder where you're going with this.
But I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. But like, obviously, you've mentioned before that you've dealt with, well, having dyslexia, you've dealt with like your own challenges, like in, you know, your career as you've gone on.
Yep.
How have you find? I mean, actually, I was reading a statistic about dyslexic people, and I think in the world of like the world as a whole, I think it's like 13%, and that's equivalent to like 30 million people in the world. Like, oh no, sorry, 30 million people in the US's population. So like, it's actually quite a big statistic. But I think from my perspective, it'd be interesting to hear about how it's helped you in your career as an accountant.
Yeah, so
more specifically.
From very early on, my dad was probably one of the first ones to recognise it, where I was incredible at maths, but absolutely horrendous with all reading subjects. And my dad's like, he's dyslexic. He's definitely dyslexic. And one of my teachers was like, he can't be, he's too smart. And I was sort of on the cusp when I was sort of early school years, where it wasn't quite wide known as it is now, where I think it would be picked up on a lot quicker. But where it particularly hits me is numbers and patterns I'm fantastic with. I can remember accounting jobs I did when I was training to the nth degree kind of sort of level, which is, I don't know if that's just the way my mind works. But then I then struggled to spell in simple words. I had to ask Siri how to spell ease today because I couldn't remember how to spell it. So it's that sort of counterbalance of sometimes I forget how to spell an easy word like that, or I can't think of quite a common one I have is, especially when I sort of doing essay writing less so now, is trying to think of, I want to say a word but I can't spell that word, so I then have to use a different word. So that's particularly where my sort of dyslexia kicks in. No, I actually feel it's a sort of massive benefit where I'm a sort of quite logical and sort of processy sort of driven, so sort of I sort of build my working structure around so it mitigates a lot of the sort of the downfalls of the grammar and let's say incomplete sentences and stuff like that. So generally if you get an email from me and it's blunt, it's more because it's not because I am blunt, it's more because if I write more, there's more space for mistakes. So it's that sort of, which Jamie likes to describe it, fluffy flying the emails as sort of ways to sort of help reduce that and sort of like, it's okay, it's not quite as blunt as it's meant to be.
It's just more to the point.
It's much more to the point.
Right.
It's not. I'm not trying to be rude. If I was being rude, you would definitely know about it.
You would.
Okay.
You would.
Yeah. So sort of building up the sort of things in my work, and so I try not to type an email. I try not to hit send straight away. I always review it, mainly because of that aspect where I could have just got words the wrong way. I can't listen to, when I'm typing particularly, I can't listen to words with lyrics in them. So it doesn't mean my Spotify is just deep house. There's very little words in them, or they're very repeated, like mundane sort of.
Good focus music.
Is it Dean doing like accounts jobs with like glow sticks?
Yeah. So yeah, so that's because I then tend to type what I'm listening to. So it's it could go quite badly wrong. So yeah, that sort of thing is that I have to be slightly careful of. But what it sort of does is it's then sort of prompted me to sort of go and do my own sort of like, how do I make myself sort of more efficient in that sort of thing? Because obviously that's a sort of a big time sink where typing and it's slower for me. So sort of dictating, I do a bit less of it. I did quite a bit of it during uni, whereas the technology now is brilliant where you can just dictate things. I would dictate a lot more, but my wife doesn't like it. But like there's a couple of times, actually less so recently, where if I had to type this out, it's going to take me 4 minutes. But if I just 30-second voice note to you, it's like, oh, there you go. And you convey a lot more information. So I tend to try and pick up the phone a lot more and then emails. Sometimes obviously stuff needs to be written down in emails, but it's saying the email, hey, right, this is what I need. Can you get it to me? So instead of sort of that sort of structure. And then it's sort of what I've sort of built on is the sort of productivity sort of aspect of, well, I think again where my brain comes down. So there's two sort of main sort of thoughts I use. It's getting things done, which was sort of done by David Allen, and that's all about, right, if a job can be done in 2 minutes, you do it. If it takes longer than 2 minutes, you create a task. So you're always clearing your tasks. So it's sort of getting you in that mindset. And then I'm writing his name, Marlon Mann, who was a Google executive, is Project Zero. So they sort of marry together and sort of trying to be a bit more efficient and sort of get a bit more focused on task completion and than sending emails, which I think is very good in the sort of modern world.
Yeah, it's quite interesting for me. Like Dean and I sit back to back in the office, and every once in a while, Dean uses a lot of technology, sort of brought up there with Siri and stuff, and he's just like, he'll just shout out, "Spell receipt." I feel like I'm on a spelling bee, and I'm like I don't know, like I before E, like. But yeah, it's like I've got a bit more used to it now. But because of like, there's a lot of processes we brought in because Dean loves a process, and I use the same stuff because it's helpful. If he's using something, then I'll use the same thing. But yeah, I've always found it very useful. Obviously, I was always very jealous because Dean got extra time at university and stuff, and I was like, I've got to sit in this cold hall, and you get this lovely room to yourself to sit and do your exam.
You also left 30 minutes early, so you didn't have to wait as well.
So you didn't need the time, didn't need it. But yeah, but no, I think what you said at the start of like your teachers saying like, oh, he's too smart to be dyslexic. I think a lot of people have like realized that's nonsense. Like I think most people know that now. I hope so anyway.
Yeah. And also one point, dyslexia. I think it mainly focuses now on sort of words, but there's dyspraxia now, which I think is
it's the numbers ones. I think. Yeah.
I think it's all sort of collective. It's now collectively known as dyslexia, and I remember at school, the three of us who were dyslexic, and all three of us were completely different in how it had affected us, which is quite interesting. So I was fine with numbers, but the other two boys were not. So it's sort of that.
So they're not accountants then, is what you're saying?
No, I actually lost touch with those two. I think one's a barber.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Is that where you got a haircut, Jamie?
No, it wasn't. Well, it might be. I don't know. I'm considerably older than Dean. Like, don't know.
Considerably older.
Considerably older. Anything older than
You're
6
mid-30s now. I'm early 30s.
Grumble.
Okay, well that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And it's been a while since we've done our last one. I feel like
it's been about a year.
Our last podcast.
This is meant to be like weekly.
Yeah, we've just got longer weeks basically. So here we are, 8 months later.
Yeah.
What's
actually
happened?
8 months?
It's been 8 months since we did the last one.
Yeah.
And you're in.
I get more sleep now as the answer to that question.
Good. That's
I
good
get
progress.
up at 5 o'clock, but the wee man is sleeping from put down to 5 o'clock.
Oh yeah. Because your wee one is how old now?
19 months.
19 months. And Jamie's got
13 months and another one on the way. So yeah,
You're
about to have no sleep.
Don't sleep anyway. I sleep in the office.
So 8 months later, Jamie will basically have like massive eye bags under his eyes.
We might actually
For the
need to
next
sort of
one?
like do that modern office thing and have like poofs everywhere. To
Oh
sort of,
yeah,
like, just
absolutely.
sleep
Little
in.
bean bags and that'd be really good. Yeah.
Well, you're in year 2.5, you said.
Yep.
Business. So we're coming up to year 3. How's business been and what's changed since we last spoke?
I guess like
we're official employers.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're employers as soon as you're a director.
Yeah, but with us two.
Yeah, there are other people, there are other stakeholders
Out with
now.
the 50% each.
Yeah, we've got Jane, who we mentioned earlier, who is out in Spain, so virtual worker, and she's been phenomenal for me. I'm not just sucking up to her because she gets access to my emails, but no, she's been phenomenal.
So much power.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't send me anything bad because Jane will see it. But no, it's I was really reluctant to give up control. I've never really had to do that sort of thing before, but I was just bombarded. I think a lot of people recognised it, not necessarily clients, but a lot of people sort of in the industries, like there was a lot of sort of virtual assistants and stuff who were contacting me and be like, you've got these problems, like you need to do something about it. And I was just like, no, I'll be fine, I'll just get over this next hurdle. And then Jane was phenomenal and just came in and just fixed everything. And yeah, she's been really good, taking a lot of stuff away from me. And then we hired Jodie, who is third year university, and she's only recently been in the office, and she's been really good. So she's full time at the moment. Hopefully she'll be part time when she goes back for her final year. And if she chooses us, then hopefully we can put her through her ICAS next year. That's the sort of plan. So that's where we are. I don't think there's any secret of the fact that like I'm still looking for the occasional personal tax client. I've still got some capacity. Dean has basically given up. He's just gone, it's too much. These existing clients have done too well, which, like, another compliment. Part of that must be down to you as well. Like, obviously, you can't take credit.
I can't take all the
for
credit.
clients doing well in their own businesses, but obviously you must have helped them somehow for them to do well. So when clients get a lot bigger and have bigger problems, then it takes more time. Our fees go up. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's, it's really valuable. So he's got a couple of clients that have done really well, and he's turned around to me and said, Jamie, stop selling business clients. Like, we can't handle it anymore. So I guess the next step is the obvious thing of get another Dean. You could maybe go down, get another me, but actually it just makes more sense to go get a few more businesses and stuff. It's a bit more, what's the word? It's a bit stabler. It's just sort of more regular stuff, whereas like my stuff is so ad hoc and one-off a lot of the time, and then so it would make more sense to get another one. So if you know any CAs, ICAS CAs, is that like got a preference, or is it like absolutely only ICAS?
Nah, the preference would be CA.
So yeah, that's probably the next step. Whether that's full-time, part-time, I've got no idea. I think it would come down to, like, just going to get bombarded with recruiters now, but no, I think just because of the nature of who we are in the industry, we know a lot of people, and it's like the right person will come along. Maybe potentially open up new service lines. So there's a lot of people, particularly within the tax world, who are very good at their own little niches and stuff. And if I could bring them under the Anderson Edwards umbrella, change the name.
That'd be the hardest thing.
Yeah, that'd be the hardest thing, wouldn't it? But yeah, and like trying to come up with that. Like, there's been no real formal thought put into this, but it's an obvious way to go. We're getting more and more stuff. People are realizing what we're about and values and how we work, and some people love it. We're not for everyone. We're not going to sit and pretend, but it's like there's some people who just like really get what we're trying to do here, and it's really popular, and we want to create more capacity to get more people in and that stuff. So, but for me personally, I need to stop. Like, I as I keep saying, I need to know people, I need to know it, and unfortunately I can't scale because of that. So the real way you can do that would be to get someone like me or whatever, but I think it would be a bit safer to do it on Dean's side first, I think. So that's probably where we're at. Either that, or I just like, I've had enough. Sell up, business asset disposal relief. I'll go live on an island. I've had enough. Like, no phones, no emails.
Or start a band.
Oh yeah, start a band, the CT600. So let's do it. Let's do it. So yeah, that's the way we're going. But yeah, it's unbelievable pace, and I think there's a lot of clients that we've had who are sort of on the same sort of trajectory, and it's quite nice that we're all going through the same sort of problems. Like, they're asking us like what we're finding like in this exact moment. There's a lot of shared experience, and like, it's not like you can come and say, oh, I've got 30 years business experience. I was like, I'm sorry, but the last 3 years has been unprecedented is the word, isn't it? And like, it's like you can't have that sort of experience. Like what have you actually done? Like tangible. Like, what have you done? What form have you filled in? What claim have you made in order to get to this next thing? What new technology is available? It's like, well, we've been using this software. I think it would work for you. And it's these sorts of things. So growing with your clients is really helpful as well. So yeah, we maybe need to keep up with them.
The problem is, how do you find another Dean?
Oh, well.
Right.
Oh, well. Dime a dozen.
There's only one.
Dime a dozen.
I'd be worried if there's another me. Well, it might implode like a black hole.
That wouldn't be fun. I'm not doing any accounts jobs. So yeah, that's where we are.
Do you have anything to add?
I was going to say, I've done some ICAS videos.
Yes, I was going to say, you should make new hires. See if they've watched the video and then ask them questions based on the video that Dean's done.
We could do when we did them at the union in like first year, to like look at the video during the quiz and like write down answer questions.
I've got no idea what you're talking about. I didn't go to much stuff at uni, but
Jamie did not turn up. But yeah, the video you did was about ethical leadership.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Tell us more about that.
It's in the video.
Yeah. Here's the link to the video.
It's the sort of the ICAS's new initiative of ethical leadership. The video is does a lot better than I'm going to be able to explain it now, but it's sort of more about sort of accountability and sort of that transition of accountants over the next 10 years. We are going to become business advisors rather than just number stamp. It's more how can we help businesses grow? Are you being ethical? So, okay, easy one, minimum wage. You're paying your staff minimum wage. Okay, right. Do you maybe want to be paying working living wage? It's sort of those sort of builds on it. And it's sort of with ICAS's sort of thing is it's CAA qualified accountants are everywhere within businesses. And you were quite surprised when we went to the president's event a couple of months ago, and it was sort of I thought it'd be full of lots of practice owners, but it's not. It's lots of people out in industry. So it's sort of CAs are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's too many. Like you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Like especially when I'm slagging off accountants all the time, and well, actually, I'm a CA. Oh God.
Taking over the world, then.
Yeah, I know.
Sure.
That's accountants running the world. Yeah, I can say that because I don't consider myself one, but everyone else does. That's basically the thing. But
the fact that you carved that own category away.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like I'm surrounded by them all day. I'm constantly talking to them. I feel I've earned my dues to slag them off sometimes, and that's it. But no, they're very, very valuable. I know firsthand. Yeah, I'm saying nice stuff all the time.
Yeah. I'm just going to cut out all the compliments from this episode. This is a wee compilation.
Constant
I have a sad face.
I know.
The key point about Dean's ICAS video, though, is that I have a cameo.
Cameo.
I got a cameo.
Yes, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, well, it's great. But the actual thing that I didn't bring up, when it was posted all around the place, was that I'm looking like Dean's teaching me something in the video. I'm being directed. And that was quite fun. But what I really like about it, if you watch it again, my chartered tax advisor sort of diploma is on the wall behind in the ICAS thing. That was deliberate. That was absolutely deliberate to put it in there. It's like,
that was a cute cameo.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, cool.
Your first non-speaking role.
Yeah. May there be many more.
And I've also done an interview for the CA magazine as well, so that will be coming out in due course.
Have you done that?
Yeah, I did that last week.
Did you go somewhere for it?
No, you just decided to do a half week last week.
I took my daughter to the bird garden in Scotland. That's what, yeah. And I came in, it was a whole day off, and I came into the office anyway. I got in trouble for that.
Next time we do another one of these, you guys will be a family of, or a joint family. Yeah, joint family. Partners.
An Anderson Edwards family of 27.
Of how many? Yeah. Like 7 at least. Right?
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh my gosh, so many babies. Love it.
So it's a big Christmas party.
Yes. Yep.
Oh yeah. I was
Christmas
thinking
party.
from like a family sense, but yeah, I forgot about we employees.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you in
We're
8
done.
months then. Another 8 months.
8 months.